are the issues around children on the move that perhaps we need to be focusing on? We need to also identify those things that perhaps we feel that children and civil society organizations, perhaps they don't have capacity on. And as we're identifying those, we're also seeking resources in terms of both technical and financial so that we can mitigate the gaps that have been identified. Resource people to train or to facilitate or to take us through those issues that we have identified. And perhaps if it involves all of us, we can then need financial resources like interpretation, so on and so forth. So that's the broad expectation of a thematic group. The third one is around advocacy initiatives. Every issue that we're focusing on, or every right, every challenge, has the component of practice and structural, the policy laws, strategies, all of that. So we need each thematic group to also identify some of those things that perhaps are a problem. Whether we can use the UNCRC, we use the charter, and we use regional structures to then say that at this level and that level, we find that there are gaps here and there, and this is, we're going to ask 10 members within a certain region to sign, ratify a certain instrument or a certain protocol. So those are some of the conversations around that. Or perhaps it's just an implementation issue because in terms of signing, ratifying, or domestication, they've already done that. So those are some of the areas that we need to be looking out for. And then also identify areas that perhaps we feel that we don't know much about within that thematic area. And we can identify those areas that would then need research, and we can ensure that even at the stage where we are now implementing, that we participate in such researches and that we review the reports when they finally do come out. The other component broadly is around facilitation of documentation. Because thematic groups are made up of experts or organizations that are working within that area, you find that some of the organizations that are within a thematic group are really, really doing well in terms of that particular thematic area. So if they're doing well and we feel that, you know what, this approach or this intervention or this initiative is really bringing results, perhaps we need to document it properly such that it can be shared with the broader civil society cohort and perhaps taken to communities so that as they also are doing contributions, they can also share some of these good practices. We are sharing that for purposes of replication, because what we are also seeing that when we standardize practice, it becomes much easier for all of us to follow. And that's why we have general comments, because they are meant to standardize how member states should be responding to issues. And then lastly, it's the thematic groups are going to help us to work with committee special rapporteurs. The committee special rapporteurs are also meant to help the committee to be busy. It doesn't help that we meet once, twice a year. The absence of meeting throughout the years also maybe that we don't have anything to talk about or we don't have anything to do. So if we have these thematic areas, of course we'll be busy because tomorrow it will be children on the move. Tomorrow it's children affected by conflict. Tomorrow we are dealing with the birth registration and so on and so forth. So we are constantly engaged. So we want the thematic groups to then help us to engage with the committee special rapporteurs or the working groups, as we are seeing that they have now formed a working group on climate change and children's rights. So basically at a broad level, that's what the summary of the terms of reference for the thematic groups is about. If you have the CSO Forum Constitution, you can read at length Article 12 in terms of why the thematic groups and so on. But we will make sure that the Constitution is also part of the package when we are now sending out the presentations and all of that. Now, in terms of the instructions to what we are doing, we have two processes. The first process would be that there's going to be a link that help us to go into the actual groups. And in those actual groups, we are going to have 3 questions. Jenny will speak to that. I think the first question is around what are the main issues that group is going to focus on. And then the second would be if you've already met, what was the agreement? Because we are aware that the health thematic group, for instance, had a meeting prior to the city. So perhaps what were their agreements? And then what are you agreeing to focus on? Because ultimately we now need to develop a mini work plan that can help us to be engaged throughout. And that mini plan will also help us as the Secretariat to look for those resources if they are not existing anywhere else. I hope it's clear for now, but I'm going to ask Jenny to just project the thematic groups once again and project the organizations that had expressed interest in leading, but also expressed interest in joining those groups. And if you still need to be continuing to join if you had not done that, because the joining had happened in November, you will still have an opportunity to join now. So basically that's about it. Jenny, if you can take it away with the second part of what the expectations are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Felicitas. So the instructions are, so there's a Zoom link that is going to be reshared again. So please join, you will leave this meeting and join the other one because that's where the breakaway rooms are. And then the breakaway rooms, as soon as we have enough quorum, we're going to enable the breakaway rooms. And then please join the thematic group that you want, okay? And if your team leader is not there, please don't be limited. Be proactive, take over the leading, okay? So take over the leading if your team leader is not there. So as you can see, for example, for violence against children, we have LHRC, we have African-wide Movement for Working Youth and Children, we have EACRN, and then you have UCRNN. So for there, I think I would request Ben and Damon to split. And then for children in armed conflict, we have Save the Children and Plan, AULO. And then for birth registration, we have CRINSA. For child marriage and other harmful practices, we have Plan International and FAWE. For child participation, we have Save the Children, African-wide Movement, Total News and PACLO. For children in vulnerable situation, we have AICS. For health, welfare and development, we have FAWE and APHRC. Children on the move, we have Save the Children, African and the ENDA JUNASE actions. Children in conflict with the law, we have ACJ and LHRS, RC. Parental responsibility, you have CRINSA, AFCAN, AMWCY, and then education, we have FAWE, Widow of Hope, and AFCAN. So I would request all of us, please, let's migrate. We are not going to close this meeting. So for the case for anybody, there's a link that has just been shared again in the WhatsApp group. Please use that link. Leave this meeting and use that meeting. Join to this other meeting. Please leave this current meeting and join. So as soon as we have about 30 people or so, we are going to enable the groups. So we are waiting for you on this other meeting. We already have about 6 people. But this other meeting we have, and I know we have translation issues, so we are very cognizant with that. You will forgive us. So, but where we have a lot of French speaking, we are going to ask our interpreters to join that group. So, so the link is in the chat box for anybody.